All right, hello and welcome to another episode for MC Airsoft. I am Mark, and today we're going to be discussing camouflage, right? Or cami uniforms, whatever you want to call it, BDUs. There's a bunch of different names. Today we're mostly talking about them all in one perspective. I'm not going to break down brands and things like that. Frankly, I have a limited experience with mostly true spec, proper, and other ones that are produced for the military. So first thing we're going to be talking about today is going to be unit identification, right? So this breaks down really into two sections. First is team organization. Now, a lot of people are going to be thinking, why do I need to wear camouflage or why do I need to wear green? Why do I need to wear tan? Why do I need to wear these kind of things? And while some fields, yes, especially indoor fields, not really that important, the team identification part of it is a big part of it. So you might be wearing, your entire team might be wearing all red, that's fine. Might be wearing all green, that's fine. Team identification is going to play into that. And the first part of it is going to be team organization. Now, that might be for your event organizer or whoever's running the event, especially for a lot of the bigger ones where there are uniform requirements. Or it might be you go down to your local field, whether that is, meeting up on federal land, whatever the case is, playing maybe on private property, whatever the case is in that respect. Or it might be going to a paintball park, it might be going to an indoor facility, it might be going to a bigger facility. Whatever the case is, team identification is going to play into that, and part of that is going to be team organization. So generally speaking, whoever's hosting the event or reffing the event is going to be okay. Everyone in camouflage on one side, civvies on the other side, green on one side, tan on the other side. Something to that effect, right? So really breaks down into two things on that. One, you might want to wear a certain thing so you're with a certain group, right? Or it might be that you and your 5 buddies roll out to a field, whatever the case is, and 4 of you are wearing tan, one's wearing green, and chances are you might not be on the same team. Now, a lot of places, especially if you're all wearing civvies, well, that's going to be different, and they'll probably be like, okay, you guys came together, you guys get to play together. So, obviously there's the exceptions, but largely it's understood that it's going to be green versus tan, or you're going to be on headbands. Green and tan are just easier, but it doesn't always break down cleanly. So your organizer might put headbands on you, armbands, ribbons off the goggles, something of that nature to identify teams. But in cases where it is green versus tan or something like that, or even where it isn't, you're more likely to be all stuck on the same team if you're all wearing the same thing, right? Or at least kind of the same thing, right? So this is a desert tiger stripe. It's not very common. It's one of the reasons I like it. But you could be wearing desert marpat. You could be wearing AO1, I think it is. You could be wearing old school desert tricolors, or you could just be wearing all tan. And as long as you all are in the same kind of color spectrum, you're probably going to be put on the same squad. Same with woodlands and green. Chances are higher that you're all going to be put on the same team, right? So that's going to be one facet of team identification. The other is recognition, right? Now, you might always play with the same group of 4, 5, whatever people. That's great. You might recognize, Jim is wearing a green hoodie today, or Tim is wearing a red sweatshirt with white lettering. Okay. But if you're all wearing the same thing, it's going to be a lot easier to spot that across the field. And you don't have to be like, well, was he wearing red? Was he wearing blue? Was he wearing green? You don't have to really put any thought into it if you're all wearing the same thing, right? So that's going to be another big facet of it. And especially because if you're playing the CQB games more prevalently, you're going to be doing a lot of quick responses to seeing an enemy player, right? So the faster you can make that decision on friendly versus not friendly, the easier your time's going to be, less likely you are to get shot when you're making the wrong call or you're sitting there trying to make a decision. So team identification is going to be real handy. And even for the speed QB players out there, you might not go with camouflage, but if you're all wearing the same thing, you're all wearing the same sweatshirt, you're all wearing the same jersey, whatever the case is, chances are there's less likelihood for friendly fire and less likelihood that you're going to freeze trying to make a target identification and get shot for it. So that's one facet. The second is going to be durability, right? And so, yes, you can go get your Carhartts, you can get a nice pair of jeans, work cargo pants, whatever the case is. You can wear work clothing and have kind of the same effect, but generally speaking, it's going to be more expensive for the same durability as a used pair of camis, right? So, not surprisingly, the military uses durable clothing because you put it through a lot. So that is something to keep in mind. You're going to have a lot more durability than your average clothing, and it's going to be cut right, which is going to be big for Airsoft. It's going to be cut expecting you to be able to take a knee, be able to run in it, be able to do all these other things, where if you're wearing, cheap big box store clothing, even if it says work clothing or looks like work clothing, maybe you go to sprint and you blow out your crotch, right? Maybe you go take a knee and it rips open. I was actually out last Sunday. I had an airsoft field up in Vegas, paintball field playing airsoft, but whatever. And I had a small hole at the beginning of the day in my cargo pants. I went to take a knee, split open. Now, granted, those were real durable. They're also like 7 years old, so I can't really blame the manufacturer or anything too much, but that is something to keep in mind. You might think everything's fine, catch it on a piece of terrain in the field, right? You're running past a piece of cover and it catches and starts a tear or starts a rip, and then you go to take a knee and it splits open, or you have to step up onto something, you blow out your crotch. There's a lot of reasons for that. I personally play mostly outside, and there's a lot of thorns and bushes and small trees, shrubs, whatever you want to call them, with thorns on them. And I've even ripped open actual camouflage uniforms on that. So, but you have a little bit better likelihood to have durable clothing if you go with, a combat utility uniform. Right? Obviously, nothing's perfect, right? You could even go with the Cry uniforms. I spent $500 on my pants, and you go to a field, you run through a doorway or past a piece of terrain, a bolt sticking out, grabs a pocket, rips it open. Now your $500 pair of uniforms are ripped open. So personally, I realize that my camouflage or my uniforms, whatever I want to call them, is going to be expendable, so I try not to spend too much on it. So the next thing is going to be the heat, which is very prevalent for us here in Arizona, but it's going to be prevalent for if you're in a cold environment, if you're in a hot environment. Unless it's a perfect temperature and real nice outside, you're going to run into this issue. So a big reason to wear utility uniforms is because, one, it's going to match coloration, right? And for this, we'll talk about blending in a second, but for this, we're talking about coloration being that If I'm in a tan environment like northern Arizona where I am now, the sun is going to be hot. It's just par for the course. And so the coloration of the uniform is going to reflect a lot of that heat. Now this one, not so much, right? This is a little bit darker. It does blend in a little bit better, but it is going to be a little bit hotter. But if you're wearing, Marpat, tan Marpat, something like that, or even just light tan, 511 pants, something of that nature, you're going to be pretty well off because that lighter color is going to reflect a lot of that heat. So you're not going to heat up as much. There was a case that happened at an Airsoft game last month where I was wearing, combat cut frogs, my Marpat, and another gentleman out there was wearing woodland BDUs in the same cut, still frog style with the regular t-shirt fabric on his chest, real breathable, I'm sure, but I was fine. He was sweating. Maybe he's a sweaty person, don't know, but it's showing that variation, right? Where we're wearing pretty much the same thing, but because he's wearing darker clothing, he's going to heat up a lot faster. That would be my advice to anyone who wants to play outdoors. Unless it's snowing, stay away from, or real cold out, stay away from the black uniforms, stay away from dark colored uniforms, or match your environment. Same thing goes on the other side. If you're playing in the sun, but it's cold out, if it's maybe snowing out, the dark colored uniforms are going to help attract that heat and keep the heat in, and you're going to stay warmer because of that. Whereas if you're wearing a light colored uniform, something like this, then it's going to reflect a lot of that heat. Now, obviously, you can have warming layers, so you might be wearing like Arctic camo or Alpine camo that has mostly white camouflage on it, but you're probably going to be wearing some kind of warm layer underneath, right? If you're playing in the snow, you probably should anyway, but so that's something to keep in mind. If you wear dark colors in the cold, you can attract heat, and light colors in the heat, you can reflect heat, especially the UV rays. Not only that, you might go with camis for this, for breathability, things like that. That's a great option. Always buy a size larger for deserts. You can buy your normal size, maybe a size larger for woodlands, because if you're in the woodland environment and it's cold, you're probably going to be wearing a warming layer underneath, or you can buy your normal size, which will fit to you and keep you somewhat warm because of color. I generally have my sleeves undone and rolled up for when I'm playing in the heat. That allows good airflow, and it's gonna allow my hands to cool off, to expel heat through my hands, through my forearms. Even if I'm wearing gloves, I'm gonna have something exposed so it can expel heat, which is great. And again, nice flowing clothing, breathable, it's great. Stay away from your polyesters, things like that, unless you're in a winter type environment where it's real cold out. I am in an environment where it does snow during the summer here, or during the winter here. So I'll probably be switching over to my woodlands, or maybe switching over to some kind of alpine camo, something like that, something larger that I can fit a warming layer underneath. We'll see. I still got a few months for that. So the last thing is going to be blending in. Now, I'm not talking about the ghillies and things like that. Frankly, I've only seen one ghillie suit used to any kind of effect, and it's because there was a huge firefight going over the guy, and he was laying down in his ghillie. They didn't notice him trying to push back our forces, and he was able to pop a couple of them. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there doing the sniper thing with their ghillies, and some of them are real good at it, some of them not so much, but it takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of customization. You're not going to get a ghillie off the rack, be able to run it, and actually blend into much. Now, any more than a normal uniform and maybe face paint, right? Or some kind of face mask. So I'm not really talking about ghillies. They have their place, but they take a lot more effort than most people realize. So keep that in mind. I'm talking more about just general blending in. Now, there's two things. There's scanning, and then there's direct eyesight, right? So scanning wise, if I'm wearing something that blends in with the environment, and it doesn't even have to be like camouflage or something like that. It could be, oh, I'm in the desert in Arizona, I'm going to wear tan, like my hat, right? Or khakis or something of that nature, something that blends into the environment. It could be, oh, I'm playing in the woods, I'm playing in a forest type environment, so I'm going to wear something that blends in with that environment. Or I'm going to CQB arena, I know all of the stuff in that CQB arena is tan. Cool, I'm gonna wear tan, something of that nature. So we're talking first off with limited recognition, limited time frame recognition, right? So if I'm scanning, if I'm just looking back and forth, or if I see someone pop out or sprint across an area, I'm less likely to see them if their coloration blends in with the environment. Even when you're dealing with CQB or speed QB, whatever, same thing applies because we're dealing with human nature here, right? Another good example is I was playing a few weeks back with a guy who was wearing a black face mask. I think he had a black helmet and dark colored, I think black top, dark green gear. But we're out in the middle of Arizona. There ain't a lot of green, at least not dark green. There's a lot of light green, but not dark green. And so every time he stuck his head up, I was able to, oh, he's right there. Yeah, I was able to recognize him because it didn't match. Because the human eye is really good about picking out things that don't match. So the other side of it is if I see you for a while, right? If you're wearing camis, if you're wearing color matching clothing, even if I see you for a while, chances are I might not recognize you, especially if you're not moving, if nothing's sticking out weird. You don't got a black gun like this, maybe you got a painted gun like on this side. So that's something to keep in mind as well. The human eye is going to have a harder time making the recognition, realizing that yes, that is in fact an actual person, especially at distance, outside of your engagement distances. Obviously with that one, if you're close up, you're probably going to recognize them as a person anyway. And that's going to go how that's going to go. But blending in, it is something to keep in mind. In Airsoft, we're dealing with much closer engagements. Does it really matter? Maybe not. Maybe if you're going to a milsim, you're going to a nature walk or a recce walk or whatever you want to call it, and you're out and about, and I see someone maybe from, quarter mile away, am I going to recognize them if they're in camis? Maybe not. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, depends on the coloration and the environment, right? But chances are, if you're in camouflage uniform, you're less likely to get noticed. And that's one thing too to point out. Good camouflage goes opposite to human structure. So on this tiger stripe, which is one of the reasons I'm wearing it because it shows very well, tiger stripe is cut horizontally across the torso, and it is cut vertically it is cut perpendicular to the arm, right? So you want your camouflage uniform to be perpendicular to the natural variation of the body. Same thing on the rifle over here. The camouflage stripes are going perpendicular to the natural flow of the rifle. The grip is horizontal. The grip down here is horizontal. The mags are horizontal. The main body of it is cut vertical, so that way it disrupts the natural look of the rifle. Same thing on the JPC knockoff up here. You can see the camouflage running mostly straight across. It's going to help break up the human structure, right? Because when you're scanning, you're looking for a stick figure, essentially. You're looking for a human colored stick figure. And so having that horizontal line means that it's going to break it up. And then if I go to lay down, same thing. If I'm looking for someone in prone position, I'm looking for a horizontal line, and this is a bunch of vertical lines if I'm laying down. So that's something of note as well. And then you get other things, right? Multicam is decent at a bunch of different environments. So if you're on a budget, maybe you go with multicam. MARPAT or AR1 or whatever the case is, whatever you want to call it, Camo is going to be good at disrupting night vision as long as it is not starched, right? If you're getting used Marine Corps stuff, chances are you're going to have starch in that, and it's not going to work as well. But that is something to keep in mind if you're playing a lot of night games. Disrupting night vision might be handy for you, and it does work fairly well, at least close up if it's clean. And then another misconception about night games is like, oh, I want to wear all black because it's dark out. It's not really how that works. Anyone who's gone camping, anyone who's gone out and about at night outside of a city maybe, where it's dark out, maybe there's a moon, something like that, knows that if a bush is green during daytime and it's on a sandy environment, well, not only is the bush going to be significantly darker than the sand, but also you're going to get a little bit of that color variation if you got decent lighting, right? So if you wear whatever camis, if you want to blend in at night, you should be wearing whatever camis that you would wear during the day, because it's the same color palette and you're going to blend in roughly the same, maybe a little bit better because it's dark out. Anyway, that's about all I wanted to say for today. So until next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.